Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you in person today, so I thought I might take this opportunity to introduce to you our next two parts of speech that we're going to take a look at this week. And actually, I put them all on the screen for you, so you should be able to see everything on this slide alone. So, look, I just want to talk you through for a couple of minutes about adjectives and adverbs. Again, the two parts of speech we'll be taking a look at so far this week. Remember, in past weeks, we have looked at nouns and pronouns. Last week, we tackled verbs. And again, this week, we're going to tackle the modifiers. So let's start with adjectives. What exactly is an adjective? Well, if you take a look according to the definition, an adjective modifies a noun or a pronoun. Now, think about it, folks. Back when we talked about nouns and pronouns, some of the sentences that we looked at did also contain adjectives. And there were times when those adjectives appeared before the noun or pronoun, and then there were other times when the adjectives appeared after the nouns and or even after linking verbs. We refer to those as predicate adjectives. So, for instance, you could have a happy baby, such as the happy baby drank the bottle. And happy, of course, is modifying baby. And you could also have the baby was happy. Certainly in that case, happy comes after that linking verb was. And of course, it's linking baby to happy there. Hey folks, remember there are a couple of special kinds of adjectives as well that exist. We refer to these as articles. A, and the are probably the three most commonly used adjectives in your writing. And you think about it, these three adjectives are fairly important. I mean, there is a difference between a teacher and the teacher, for instance. Again, these kind of specify certain nouns and pronouns. Hey, we also have, and I think I mentioned these back when we talked about pronouns, we have these demonstrative adjectives. Demonstrative adjectives are the same four words as demonstrative pronouns. This, that, these, and those. The difference is that these four words can be used as pronouns when they're replacing something, when they're replacing a noun, or they can be used as adjectives when they're modifying a noun. So something like this is my teacher would be a demonstrative pronoun, whereas this teacher is Mr. Weaver. This would now be modifying teacher. So again, same four words, but they're used differently. So let's go ahead and take a look at just these two examples on the bottom here. So let's just kind of check those out. The first example says, the big silver truck was loud. Well, if you take a look, we've got, four different adjectives, certainly in that sentence. The is an article, referencing truck. Big and silver are both adjectives also, modifying truck there. And then we have loud, which is functioning as a predicate adjective there. It's linking together, of course, truck to loud. Hey, if you look down below, here we have an example of a demonstrative adjective with this, which of course is modifying dirt bike. We also have another predicate adjective here. Certainly we have muddy as the predicate adjective that is being linked also to dirt bike. So those will be some examples of some adjectives, certainly, that exist. But let's kind of pivot and talk a little bit about adverbs. So, look, adverbs, as the name sort of suggests, modify verbs. They add to the verb. But they also can modify adjectives, other adverbs, or on rare occasions, even entire sentences can be modified by adverbs. That may sound like an awful lot of different things that adverbs can modify, and, certainly it is. But you can identify an adverb because they always answer one of the following questions. They will answer how, they answer when, they can answer where, they can answer why, they can even answer to what extent or under what conditions. So if you take a look at the examples down here, let's just check those out for a couple of minutes. we have the example, the dog barked loudly. Well, loudly there is our adverb, and it kind of suggests how the dog barked. How did the dog bark? Loudly. Take a look at the second example. Someday I will be famous. Well, when will I be famous? Someday. Someday is the adverb, answers the question when there. He drove nearby to the park. Well, where did he drive to the park? Well, he drove nearby. Nearby, of course, sort of answering the question of where. She jealously stared at him. Well, why did she stare at him? Because she was jealous, right? So it sort of answers the question when, and it also does answer the question how there as well. How did she stare at him? She stared at him jealously. And if you take a look at the one at the very bottom, he was extremely angry. Well, how angry was he? Or to what extent was he angry? Or under what conditions was he angry? Well, he was extremely angry. I mean, that sort of suggests the extent to which he was angry. Extremely. So those would be some examples of adverbs and certainly some of the questions that they could answer. If you take a look, though, at the examples that I gave you, especially if you look at the first, the fourth, and the fifth sentences, you'll notice that while not all adverbs end in ly, a lot of them tend to. I mean, we always have these exceptions, like, for instance, someday and nearby. Very is a common adverb, certainly, that doesn't end in ly. But a lot of your adverbs will end in ly. Don't make that the defining characteristic that tells you whether or not something's an adverb. But a lot of adverbs do end in ly. So that pretty much reviews adjectives and adverbs at this point. At this point, you're going to move into an exercise, certainly kind of, practicing your adjectives and adverbs. And then you will move on to your other tasks to complete for the rest of the period. Hey, thank you very much for your time, folks. I appreciate it. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you carpe this diem.